we, as you know, had to convince Merlin to do it, and it had to be the right project, it had to be the right site, it had to tick all the boxes from the brief from Alton. That's why it's taken so long, and as you know, as with any project that any company delivers, we have budget parameters, the planning parameters that we work within. So with making all the pieces fit and at the right time, and this felt like the right time.
I think that it felt like the right time, and I think it feels like the right location. We did look at various locations over the years, as you're fully aware, and I think this one, my view is, it is the perfect location for what we've delivered. So
we've been trying for years. As you know, we looked at various different ways of putting a woody into Alton, and it was a case of, okay, it's actually researching a little bit Marmite. I think we just need to try it. And I think the Wicker Man, we know it's not the IP, it's not based on any movie, it's an Alton owned thing, but getting that right and elevating the proposition with the pre-show and the story and the immersivity, it's the package that's right. It's not just the fact that it's a woody. And that is what's got it through the board and to be built.
Yeah.
Is it also about having the right partner and the technology to deliver a woody that could do everything we needed in the space?
I think working with GCI was the right choice. I absolutely do. And I think, like Brad says, it's the whole package that we had to sell, and it was a sell. We did have to go to the board and to sell the benefits of the woody. And as Brad said, the research, was Marmite, we were wavering and this, that and the other. So it was about building that whole package together when we presented. We started with a list, we went and Bradley and I had the hard task of going around and researching roller coasters. So we went over to, Europa, we went to see that over there. Bradley got to California as well, I didn't, I declined that one. So we did sort of research. I did the full breakdown and obviously the cost analysis and this, that and the other, and actually there wasn't a lot within the cost, there was nothing really, so it wasn't cost that drove us to GCI. It was, we took a whole team, so we took, myself and Bradley went, the ops team went, technical guys went, and we did that full analysis of how does everybody feel about the coasters, what do we think is the best, and we went through all the sort of, the materials, the maintenance, the experience, everything, and really it just boiled down to that sort of feeling that we thought that, the GCI coaster just felt better than, the other ones, so, and that's what led us to GCI. And so it was a lot of the research, but it just,
I know the question was about why specifically GCI, but doing that research and going around all the US parks and seeing their GCI woodies, we came to the conclusion that why wouldn't we have a wooden coaster at Alton? It's just an obvious missing part of the portfolio, which I think gradually sunk into the board as well. Obviously, going to the US, they have a lot of GCI woodies to look at, so the trip was to kind of scope out the quality of GCI woody. It's not that we weren't focusing on what's in the UK as such.
I think with the site itself and the design, Alton's unique. It has a unique set of constraints that we have to work to, as you all know, which is why our coaster, they go down. We dig down in the ground because we can't go up because of the height restrictions and this, that, and the other. So it was bringing GCI over and saying this is the land, this is the constraints. What can we do in this area? And they came up with what you see out there, which I think is pretty compelling and actually fantastic in terms of the area that we've got to work with.
As always, we received a brief from Alton Towers. We knew from what we've just discussed that we wanted to put a woody in. We knew that we wanted it to be a family thrill ride, so we had those two things to consider. We then started to look at, as we always do, stories and themes. So we always generate a whole bunch that we whittle down, and we ended up with 4 or 5. Wicker Man was one of them. There was a film IP one that was one of them, which I can't disclose, unfortunately, because we didn't end up doing it, so we don't have the rights to talk about it. And a few other homegrown IPs as such. One of them was just basically about what happens if wood grows a brain and starts becoming alive, which felt like there was a nugget of gold in there, but when we started to round it off into a proposition that we could sell to our guests, it was like, we're talking nonsense. This is not what we're on about. We don't even get what we're on about. So, Wicker Man was just something that fits. It makes the best of the wood material. It makes the best of the site. We knew that we wanted to do Alton's most immersively themed roller coaster that we've ever done. So we knew we wanted to focus more on telling the story to our guests than we normally would. All of our rides have a backstory, as you know. We don't always convey that very deeply to our guests, but with Wicker Man, we took a very conscious decision to tell that story and to make it clear and involve our guests and make them a character in the story. So there's all of that. We can draw from the local area with the woodlands. It just felt like it fits in Alton, it fits with the brand, and we built the Wicker Man, which is not affiliated with any of the movies. It just draws on, we always draw on lots of sort of culture and music and media and theatre and all sorts of influences, and we just decided to build our own interpretation of Wicker Man and build the effigy that catches on fire. And key to Wicker Man, of course, was the combination of wood and fire. And I do read your forums. I know everything you ever say. And I think some of you have sort of said, oh, what could go wrong? And not you guys as well, but when Alton's social media post went out and said wood and fire, people were like, what could go wrong there? That's the point. That's why we've done it. That is the exact reason we've put wood and fire together. We've done it in a safe way. As you know, the Wicker Man is not made of wood. It's not flammable. It's not made of anything flammable. The only real flame is on the shoulders of the Wicker Man. All the rest is special effects, Hollywood effects. And as part of my California trip, I literally went to Hollywood Film Studio special effects specialists.
I'll rub it in, Brad.
I was working here.
And the beach.
And we talked to them about how do we create flame effects that are convincing under the strong sunlight and things like that, which is why we ended up with the decision of putting screens in Big Bob instead of trying to create light that competes with the sunlight and smoke effects.
Big Bob, which you don't know,
it's
the pet name with which we refer to the Wicker Man.
Sorry, I feel like you probably all do now. We've been referring to him as Big Bob.
The Wicker Man, because obviously we were building the Wicker Man.
The ride's called Wicker Man, so that got confusing in our meetings.
Yeah, so it started to come into drawings, and obviously, it was still secret at the time, but then I was starting to see drawings with Wicker Man written on, and it was like, we can't put Wicker Man on any drawings in case, it gets out and this, that and the other. So we sat in a meeting, so we'll just have to call him Big Bob, and it's stuck, and now everybody calls him Big Bob. So for me, he'll always be called Big Bob.
Well, our intent is to run it with 3 trains. I think with the amount of visitation that we'll get on this ride straight away, I'm sure we'll be flat out from the get-go. So the intent is to run with 3 trains all the time. It's not driven by any volume scaling, so the challenges for us will be around how we manage our daily and our weekly checks on those rides through the technical team and how that will have an impact. But we've got the ride on early ride time, so that gives the techies a limited window in which to do those maintenance checks. But the intent is with 3 trains. Absolutely.
I don't think there's been any particular surprises. It was, we started this process in 2014, and it was great that you said, it's more advanced than 13 was, and it was more advanced than Smiler was. And I think a lot of that was that we did a lot of front-end work. And because, we've been down this route of looking at a Woody for so many years, that, a lot of that was formulated quite early on, so that when we actually got on the construction site, we were very clear in terms of what we were doing. So in terms of surprises, no, there hasn't been many surprises that have caused us much problem. A bit of snow, really, apart from that. Challenges, we dug a big hole. We were in the middle of the park. We were trying to keep it hidden, even though Sean was doing his blog up in the sky ride. We all watched that as well, Sean. So, yeah, big shout out to Kettle and Talbot. We had all that. Yeah. So yeah, it was about trying to obviously keep the Wicker Man under wraps for as much as we could, and making sure that the park still operated during the season while we were constructing. We dug a big hole and we took the lake bed out for the log flume. We dug a big hole there, and we had to move that out. So that was probably the biggest challenge of the project.
But we kept the pre-show a secret, didn't we?
Yeah,
we managed that. So
we know people on the inside, and none of us knew. How did you do that?
No idea.
Yes. We worked again. Like I say, it was in the planning. Within the planning stage, we really brought a team in that I wanted to work with. So we got GCI, we knew GCI, but also the likes of Kettle and Talbot. That they're a local contractor. They've got a passion for the park as well. So it's about bringing all them guys in and then sitting down with them and formulating that sort of really, close-knit plan to make sure that we looked at zones and we said, right, we want to construct in this way, we want to construct in zones, we want for you to be complete in this area so that GCI can get in, we want to make sure that we're landscaping now and we're not landscaping the day before we open. We wanted to get that in because that's an important part of the theme as well. So, there's areas that have greened up already. There's areas that are, starting to, and hopefully if we get springtime anytime soon, everything will start to grow. So we made a conscious, decision that when we opened it, it needed to be guest ready. And, it's an important factor that we need to do taking forward, that we need to be guest ready. And the guest ready, it takes that, that bit of time and that just bit of consideration when you construct it.
There is an effect on the station platform which we haven't got working today, but the far wall actually has a faux flame effect in it with smoke that will pour out of the wall. Obviously the pre-show is all about fire with the projection mapped head. What we've tried to do is just, as I said, we've built the story around the concept of wood and fire. The Bjornen are obsessed with fire. It's like their lifeblood almost. So it's just a theme that flows through the whole ride, and there is physically fire on the ride that we've fused with wood, but also the concept behind the story, it's kind of woven through that as well. So I'll just address the maintenance building. As you rode through the maintenance building today, obviously it's pitch black. It was always the intention for it to be pitch black in the finale building, but with an audio kind of, we've always called it the Glenn Close moment from Fatal Attraction, where she comes back for one final scare. At the moment, the trigger needs moving. The piece of audio is firing, but you're not hearing it because you're not in the shed yet. We are looking at, between now and opening, what we can do to create a bigger effect in that room. But at the moment, it's not quite confirmed. But what's in there at the moment is what we always intended to do, because it's going a bit deep into the story, but the Wicker Man's been defeated and you've escaped. So it's literally just him saying, you will not escape, sort of thing. The pre-show you've seen, so inside the building, that was a secret. I'm getting the impression that you guys liked that, so I'm really pleased about that, because we really wanted that to be great and to kind of elevate the ride above just the wooden coaster element of it. But even the slalom underneath the pre-show, we've just pumped that room full of smoke and red light. The concept was to feel like you're slipping out of the building, and slipping out of a building that's just starting to catch fire, and you're just slipping out and making it out. Holoviz have been a fantastic partner on the pre-show. They completely get it. As you know, we've worked with IMA Score on the ride audio through Holoviz. And just having Holoviz as kind of like a show director role, just to bring together all of those elements of the theatrical, the audio, the AV, the pre-show, it's great to have someone across all of that, and I think it's proven that creates the continuity that we want. I don't know if you guys noticed, I spoke to some of you about this, but we've also got a 3-phase dynamic soundtrack. So as you go through the attraction, through the queue line, you start on the plaza and it's quite light and joyful, and then it gets darker and darker as you move to the end. So all of those elements we've worked with Holoviz and IMA Score on, just to go a step further than we have before, with just a sort of looping soundtrack on the ride. The brief was deliver a family thrill attraction. We know that the rides are 1.2, so we wanted to just kind of ramp up the intensity a bit with that pre-show. And we've had a lot of comments, are you worried some of the younger guests who are 1.2 will be scared of that? And that may well be the case. So we're saying it's down to kind of parent discretion. And same with Galactica. If you really don't want to ride with the VR, you can ride it without. If you really don't want to go in the pre-show but you want to go on the coaster, we're not going to say no to that. We'll be able to direct people the other way onto the station platform. We really want to target as wide a breadth of our guests as possible with this attraction.
It's the figure that we're waiting for Neil to clarify.
Yeah, I'll go back to you on that one.
The manufacturer's brochure is 44.
Yeah.
But we think it's coming in a bit quicker, don't we?
We do. We're doing them sort of final checks of it to see where we are, but we're about 45 miles an hour.
It feels about that compared to other GTIs.
Yeah, yeah, it's in that ballpark.
Certainly feels it at the back of the train as well. The back of the train, really intense. Yeah, really good.
Not that I can tell you. No.
At this point, no. Just within our normal operational hours, and I think I'm really looking forward to Scarefest when we have our running at night time. I mean, so you know how late the sun goes down anyway in the middle of summer. It'd be a real challenge to stay right through.
I mean, the other point is, we were talking about this yesterday. We expect there might be some queues in opening weeks, and we're still getting dark quite early, and obviously, we will close the queue line but let everybody run through. So it may well be that people in the first few weeks will have the chance to ride it as it's dropping dark. Sorry?
She looks spectacular, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Bob?
Bob?
Whatever.
We think the ride's a she, don't we? And Big Bob's Big Bob. Don't know how that works.
I mean, in designing the ride, we've had to design in a lot of audio tunnels and things like that, and we have a lot of neighbours close to this site that we have to be mindful of as a resort, and that is why, as you probably know, we can't operate in evening hours all throughout the year. So we just need to be a bit careful, and it's dictated things like where we can put speakers on the lift hill and what direction they have to face, and where we have to actually put, like, you notice on just before you go through the chest pass of Big Bob, we've had to put in like timber walls along the track. That's to contain the sound and things like that. So all of this thought that isn't immediately obvious, probably externally, feeds into stuff like that.
Obviously it's sunny now, but if you guys have been here this morning when it was really grey, when it was snowing and the full kind of flame and smoke was going, I mean, it's just as impressive. So it's just, I think with anything that's wooden as well, it has different character in different times of day and different lights. So
it does react. I mean, the atmospherics is different. So the special effects, the smoke will go one way or it'll blow one way. The flame effects will move. So it depends not only sort of what hour you're on it really, that you'll get a different effect. Yeah. Dusk is fantastic. It is. We've ridden it, haven't we? And during the night time and then dusk, and it is absolutely fantastic. But it's equally you'll get it throughout the day.
But at the end of the day, the effect we were going for is for it to look like it's on fire, not just to make it look snazzy and night. So I think we've done it in an appropriate way to make it give that effect during the day and during the evening. Well, I mean, we've already talked about how we came to have the Woody. I think that's one thing. The other thing is to kind of acknowledge that, yes, there feels like there has been a change of direction and a change of the wind in, there's only so many things you can do technically. You can only go so fast. Particularly at Alton, you can only go so high. We've done loops with Smile. It feels like we've kind of ticked all the boxes. What we're focusing now is on just delivering fantastic attractions for our guests and world-beating attractions that may not be world's firsts, but actually in its own way it feels like it maybe is a world's first because it's the most immersive wooden roller coaster from a theming point of view with a pre-show, whatever else. That's not a fact, that's a matter of opinion. Our focus was just to deliver a fantastic ride for our guests, and I think that is the right thing to do moving forwards. We may well deliver another world's first in the future, but it will not be the thing that dictates our briefs anymore.
And was it not also about a kind of almost a stripping back, going back to that real primal essence of what it was about the original roller coasters that people loved?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, a deliberate decision to move away from those kind of technical firsts.
Yeah.
We're all for it.
I know that they're looking at all sorts of different future planning options at Thorpe. Who knows? Watch this space. If this is a success, who knows? It may well change the perception of Merlin and their opinion on putting Woodies in, but who knows?
I can't remember now actually when we did the full analysis. What was that answer?
Not real.
Not real.
Well, yeah,
that was that we did look at that, and it was that it needs to be a Woody if it's a Woody.
Right.
We did, yeah.
Was it also about GCI and their ability to because of the way they build it, their ability to create the twists and turns in that very tightly packed space with the topography and everything?
Can I have that? It was, yeah. I mean, we looked at GCI and GCI met our brief, but there was that, but our brief was that it needs to be a Woody. Yeah. It can't be a hybrid.
And we even did specific market testing research on do you even know what a Woody is? Here's a picture of a hybrid. Here's a picture of a Woody. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And we just came to the conclusion in the end that, as Neil said, if it's going to be wood, it just needs to be real wood. Well, we're always master planning. We're always reviewing the portfolio of rides. At the moment, we're quite a way in, obviously, to 2019 developments. When it comes to the next secret weapon, we just need to keep our eye on the master plan and work future plans out. But at the moment, there is certainly nothing in the design stage for SW9 in active design.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. As you know, we've got a capex cycle, so at the moment, it's not time to
for
work
the next
on
few
that yet.
years we're on the sort of the smaller capex cycle, but as we said right at the start, we started this in 2014, so we need to start.
Yeah, he's experienced it and given it a very firm seal of approval. John has consulted on this project in a kind of more removed position. He's very pleased with the result, and he's given us a seal of approval. As you know, he did have some input into the layout of the ride in the first drop. He made a recommendation that we did move forwards on.
So we did. John was involved in the design team meetings. He sort of advised, consulted, and we did pick up on some of the advice that he gave us, and that's gone in particularly around the first drop.
Yeah.
And it was a couple of weeks ago that he was here.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
we came a couple of weeks ago and we rode it with John, which was good.
And it was a huge compliment to me how amazed he was actually by the pre-show. He wasn't expecting the projection mapping element, and he said that's really going to surprise people. So he's a legend, as you all know. So that was a huge compliment for me to get his seal of approval on not just the ride, but the more theatrical kind of theming elements of it as well.